What is your small town dark secret story? This was around 15 years ago, but there was a sheriff's deputy that was seemingly a really cool guy, friendly, cracked a lot of great jokes, etc. He was working at the local high school as a school resource officer and was apparently almost universally well regarded. Well, it turns out that he repeatedly raped a 14-year-old. He told the boy that he'd kill his parents if he reported the officer. I don't remember all the details, but I believe this went on for weeks or months before it was found out, and the officer was arrested and eventually went to prison. Two sisters got picked up by a group of men. Both were raped and thrown off a bridge that is 45 minutes outside of town. One sister survived, but later in life went back and jumped off the bridge. This is just sad. That's truly the epitome of a tragedy. We had a pedophile that got caught because he told his friend his plans to go kidnap a girl and rape her and not plan letting her living. This was a senior at our high school, so he was 18, and not to mention his collection of child porn. Oh, I have a doozy. Short version. Popular kids in high school run a secret towel fight club and accidentally kill one of their friends in the house of a local politician, who proceeds to bury the story. Towel fight club. Tape towels over your hands and beat each other up. It's supposed to be just boxing, but it sounds like they got out of control and hardly could call it that. This is a sad one to me. There was an older couple here who ran a halfway house for troubled kids who'd recently gotten out of juvie. They fostered a few as well. They were loved in the community. Wonderful people. One of them had an older brother who was a gangbanger in the nearest big city. During a visit, he snuck his 15-year-old younger bro a handgun. Younger bro ended up holding up a local gas station and killed 3 people. One of them was my friend's cousin. The foster parents lost whatever credentials they needed to do what they did. The kids went back into the system, and the giant house has been abandoned since around 2009. The town I was raised in wasn't exactly small, but here's the one dark secret I know. My hometown was where lots and lots of sports players had their mansions, and so of course, their wives and children were out and about in the community a lot. Every single sports player wife in that town is heavily addicted to opioids. Every single one. Opioid addiction is obviously an epidemic all over the country, but among the rich wives in the town, it had a 100% infection rate, so to speak. I know because one of my friend's mom was the hairdresser for basically every single one of those wives. I was homeless my senior year of high school, and one of the sports player wives heard about me from her, and she gifted me an iPhone. That phone was pennies to her, but I still wish I'd expressed my thanks more, because that wife died of an overdose not long after. Sorry if that wasn't much of a dark secret, but yeah. 15 years ago, the local district attorney called his longtime girlfriend and told her he was taking the day off from work and that he loved her. He parked his car in town and went for a stroll past the local shops. He hasn't been seen since. His car was found where he had parked it the next day. He had left his cell phone in the car, but his keys and wallet were missing. Later that year, his laptop, sans its hard drive, was found under a bridge at a nearby river. The hard drive was eventually discovered by a local woman walking along the bank of the river, but it was too damaged to recover any data from. Interestingly, investigators discovered that someone had done a search on his home computer for how to wreck a hard drive. Did he jump from a local bridge? Did he encounter someone whom he had prosecuted who did him harm? Or did he escape his life to start a new one? About 10 years ago, a lot of homeless people disappeared, and when the police did the investigation, they found out a guy was kidnapping and eating those people. Police found his hideout and found a half-eaten body and bones from another person. People don't like to talk about it, but everyone knows what happened. About 30 years ago, a local 8-year-old girl went missing during the annual carnival downtown. After a few days, they found a suspect that was seen near the girl. Right before she went missing, the guy confessed to her horrific murder and rape and torture. He was the kid's next-door neighbor and friend to the kid's dad. I'll spare the details, but it was really bad. He was convicted and sentenced to 40 years or so. After 8 years, he was paroled and returned to the same house with his parents right next door. Laws were a bit different then, to the family of the girl and former friend. About a week later, the man never showed up at his parole office. His parents filed a missing persons report. Rumor has it that several friends of the victim's father took care of him. If you talk to them, they just say that they are sure that he won't be back. A guy in my town owned a bar across the street from his house, where he lived with his wife, daughter, and granddaughter of 5. He had a contractor working on the house. Grandma, who took care of the child during the day, thought it would be no big deal leaving the child sleeping, while she went quickly to the market. Next thing is the grandpa sees the contractor running to his car and leaving the house. Curious, he went home to find out what happened, only to find his granddaughter crying with blood between her legs. After the grandmother came back, he left the child with her, went back to the bar, got his gun, and threw the keys to one of his regulars, asking him to close the bar because he had to kill someone. When he arrived at the contractor's home, he wasn't there. He then spent the next 2 weeks surveying his home 24/7, until the rapist probably thought the coast was clear and returns home. Grandpa sees him, breaks the door, kills the guy in front of his parents, then leaves, going directly to the precinct, where he surrenders his gun and makes a full confession, detailing everything. He was tried for premeditated murder. Prosecution had all the evidence, testimony from his friends and parents of the rapist, the murder weapon, his confession. It was a close and shut case. Jury voted 7-0 not guilty. In Brazil there's 7 jurors, and you only need a majority to convict, and not unanimous like the US. Our local pizza place was a known KKK hub. Everyone knew it, and still to this day. If you Google .town KKK, the first thing that pops up is this pizza shop. They had some nastiest pizza too. Edit. This place is no longer owned by members of the KKK. It was sold about a decade ago, and the new owners have been trying to get rid of that reputation ever since. Back in the 80s, a couple were driving a motorcycle when they were stopped by 3 men, who then raped the woman while forcing her husband to watch. Then they killed both. The police caught them not so long after. The same night that they were caught, a mob of 300+ people gathered in front of the police department, broke in and told the sheriff, "You guys did an excellent job. Now leave it to us." The mob broke the cell where the 3 men were, beated them up and attached them, alive, into cars and dragged them for 4 miles until a park in the middle of the city, where they set them on fire, alive, while everybody was clapping and cheering. Edit. Found out more details that I didn't know. The mob was actually 2,000+ people. It was 5 days before Christmas. And the woman didn't die. She played dead after they killed her husband, ran and told the police. The school resources officer ended up sleeping with a senior at the high school. He was fired, but they ended up staying together and now have 2 kids. The cop now works at Goodwill. They're happy. Thanks for watching Reddit Hero. Like and subscribe for more amazing Reddit stories. Also don't forget to share these stories with your family and friends. Click a video below to continue watching our previous Reddit stories.